Hello everybody, welcome back to Milkweeds and Roses. Well, it's time to prune the wisteria. It just got done flowering and it is pretty overgrown. So I need to do a bit of a drastic prune right now. This is a good time. It's still early in the season so that this can recover. It'll have all summer and fall to recover and I'll keep it hydrated. But the best way to ensure your wisteria continues to flower enough to make a difference, is to master the pruning. Now last year I probably went too easy on it, so I think I had a total of maybe, 5 flower spikes, 5 flower racemes. It should be doing a lot more than that. This is probably, I'm guessing, 7 or 8 years old by now. So this past fall and spring I did fertilize it. I've made an effort to keep it more hydrated because we're in the, as you can tell from the sun off and on, that we're in dappled shade. It gets good morning sun, but it doesn't get full sun in this location. So pruning is essential to keep it flowering. Time to get out the clippers. Here we go. So here is the before picture. We have a lot of growth, a lot of little whippy growth, but not a lot of flowers. And like I said, this has been in place about 7 years now. The best time to prune a wisteria, barring any sort of disaster, is right after it's finished flowering. So there weren't many. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 or 7 panicles of flowers, and that's it. It should be putting on a lot more, frankly, for its age. So part of the challenge here is where it's planted. It doesn't get 8 hours of sun, which is what they like, but it is in a protected spot. It is challenged for nutrients and moisture because it's in the drip zone of a 70-year-old maple. But she does get good morning sun. A good, I would say probably 6 hours of sun. And then there's some that peeks over the back here from the west in the afternoon. So that other side of the vine gets sun there in between the trees. Not a lot. Ideally, you would get at least 8 hours of sun. They like to bake. But still, I want to keep it healthy. So it does need a prune job. And so that, did you see that? Squinnies everywhere. Yes. Eastern chipmunks. We just kind of call them here in Iowa, we call them squinnies. Okay, time to prune. So step 1 is just kind of assessing the whole thing, taking a hard look at the plant, finding the original woody stem if you can, and then what you have to do is be selective about what you're pruning. Is it going to improve the airflow? Is it going to, look better aesthetically? Do you have some whippy growth that hasn't resulted in anything that you can take it back? It's this whole process probably took about an hour, frankly. And frequently I'd back up and look at it again and just see if I've gone too far or need to do more. So basically, if you find a side shoot off of the wooden stem, count back to 3 nodes and clip it just above that. Okay, you want to at least have 3 stems off of the woody part of your wisteria. So that gives it enough energy to grow, to put on another flower stem. It's going to have all summer to do that. And the finished project actually looks pretty good. It's been opened up quite a bit. Now, I could take some of those side shoots that are down towards the ground. I could take those off completely, but I was kind of afraid it would really leave this fence pretty bare. So, and it got me thinking, timing is important, not just in trimming a wisteria, but in so many other things. You've heard it before. Timing is everything. Whether it's a boss who's told you that or a loved one, gardeners know that to be true as well. It's not just what you prune or how hard, it's when. And that makes the difference not just now, but for the bloom you hope to have next year. Case in point, this wisteria behind me. It's finished blooming, so I gave it a pretty good prune. There are some other places where I could probably prune it even more. But it was a very, I probably had 4 racemes that flowered this year. So, as I mentioned before, I gave it a good prune, and it was time. Another thing that's even harder than deadheading roses or pruning a wisteria is doing nothing. That's right. Sometimes the hardest thing is doing nothing, especially when it comes to pests. Case in point, what I would have considered a weed is actually a trap crop for aphids. So in other words, it's a native, it's an Iowa native plant. It grows and some people find it beautiful. It's got little daisy type flowers on top, but it's also an aphid magnet. It sounds bad when you think about it, but if you have an aphid magnet, that means the aphids aren't going to your roses or to your tomatoes or other things like that. Instead, they're going to a specific plant. And if you're patient enough, the natural predators to those aphids show up to take them out. All right, let's take a look. So here we are in my north damp garden. I've moved my cacti and succulents here. I have some Millennium Allium and some daylilies ready to go. It's a happy place for so many pollinators, but not just pollinators that are drawn to the plants that I put in, but also the plants that just showed up. So this is fleabane. Now, I didn't plant it here. It just sort of planted itself. It's not unattractive. It's tall. I guess you'd call it statuesque. And the pollinators certainly love it. But that's not all that is drawn to this little flowering plant. Aphids are too. Can you see these little things on the stems? So this is called a trap plant. Aphids are drawn to this plant. They come off of, what would have been my rose plant, which I wouldn't want aphids on, or a nearby tomato plant. So they're not on here. Instead, they're drawn to fleabane. And we get enough of a party of aphids here, that's also going to draw ladybugs and other predators that come looking for them. I was going to cut it down early on, but then when I noticed upon closer inspection how it is an aphid trap, I decided to leave it up. Now what I'm going to do before these seed heads, before these flowers mature into seed heads, is then I will cut it down nearly to the ground. Because at that point, and then if there are aphids on it, they go in the compost bin. But I'll take them out of my garden along with the seeds. I'm pretty confident that birds planted this, and I'm equally confident that they'll do the same thing again next year. So that's an example where patience is required. And here's another example of why timing matters. Now, if I would have pruned the lilac behind me first thing this spring, I would have cut off all of the blooms. Instead, the best time to prune flowering shrubs is after they bloom. The middle of it was damaged in a windstorm. Part of a bigger limb fell in there and broke it, so there's a bit of a gap. And it was really obvious this spring and also when it bloomed, because there was this tall spike out here and everything else was sort of off kilter. So now that it's done blooming, I trimmed off that damaged spike So there's room for this to fill in and take a better shape, really. Not to mention I limbed it up from the bottom to give a little more room for the things that are underneath and some better air circulation, and I removed a lot of the little suckers that are, you know, sort of ubiquitous with the lilac tree, and little things like that that pop up. It was just covered in them. So yes, that's where timing does matter. And here's another example behind me, the Japanese tree lilac. You usually smell these before you even see them. They smell amazing, and they're, you know, profuse, fragrant blooms in the spring, and then they just revert to a nice little, you know, heart-shaped leaf the rest of the year. Now, if I would have pruned this, because it had some areas that were also damaged over the winter, if I would have pruned this first thing in the winter, I would have lost a lot of those flowers. So the time to prune these is right after they're done flowering. So that way they have the whole year to regrow the buds and the stems for flower next year. So whenever someone says, oh, I've got a Japanese tree lilac, but gosh, it hardly blooms at all, and I keep trimming it, and I'm like, well, when are you trimming it? When are you pruning it? Because that might have a lot to do with why it's not flowering. Again, timing matters. That's it for this episode of Milkweeds and Roses. Thanks for joining me. I hope you leave me a comment. Tell me how you are handling pests or pollinators, all of that in your garden. I look forward to hearing from you. I do hope you subscribe. Let's stay in touch. See you soon. Bye. Some shade garden time. Is it shade garden time there, big boy? Yes. Hi. Hello, handsome. How about you, sweet?